Stephen, welcome back to TRUnblocked.com. It's been 6 months since we last visited here at Penderyn's newest distillery in Swansea. Then it was still taking shape. Now it is completed and operational. You really must be especially proud.
Yes, but very thrilled. It's been a long project, getting it right, getting it open, and it's a significant addition to the business now, both in terms of production capacity, but also in terms of visitor facilities. So it's a real nice addition for us as an experience for people to find out about the brand.
I mean, it's barely opened and you've already won awards, so tell me more.
We have, yeah. We were mystery shopped, I suppose, by Visit Wales, with the Welsh Government, and we won a gold award. You know, that's based on service and experience for visitors, tourists when they come here. So that was a surprise to us as well, actually, because we didn't know they were coming. So, but that adds to the other two distilleries that also have the gold award now. So that's a terrific start, great.
You've also recently achieved UK GI status. I mean,
yes.
What exactly does that mean, and just how important is it to you?
Yeah, so we've protected the term single malt Welsh whisky, and that's been important to us for a number of reasons. First of all, it protects the category, not just for ourselves, but for everybody else in the whisky industry. And also I think it gives us another building block of credibility to add to all of the other things that we've been able to achieve over the years. It puts us on a similar level to Scotch and Irish whisky, for example. And I mean, actually, when the GI was announced, the profile and coverage for it was absolutely amazing. So we've been very pleased with what that's achieved for us. It took a long time. It took us about 6 years to actually get it into force, but it's been well worth it. Yeah, so very pleased about that.
Was it easier to achieve because you focused on single malt Welsh whisky rather than anything else?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because Welsh whisky as a wider generic category is fairly new. We got new people coming into the industry and wanting to do different things. But single malt Welsh whisky was something that the 4 or 5 producers actually were already doing. It's on the market. It's built a reputation. So it very much seemed to be the right thing and sensible thing to do to get the GI established.
So what will the new distillery mean in terms of your increase in annual output here?
So the distillery at the Brecon Beacons and in Llandudno combined are about 500,000 litres of pure alcohol. This adds another 400,000 LPA, so it's very significant for us. And you know, in the whisky business, you know, you can never have that production on too soon when you know that the business is growing and you're looking ahead for the next 5 more years. It's really important to get that in place. So timing-wise, I think it's really good for us.
I have to say that the distillery is really nothing short of sensational.
Thank you.
And I think it might be worthwhile just looking at a short film that we've made to basically cover off some of the key activities that happen when visitors come to the distillery. Yeah. Let's have a look.
The first thing that will happen is they'll be taken to see a film which will introduce them to the site here at Swansea. It'll be a discussion between Michael Faraday and John Vivian talking about this site and why it was set up and the importance of it to the copper industry, both in terms of Swansea and...
It's called Copperopolis.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, there was so much wealth coming out of Swansea in terms of manufacturing. That's really where that phrase got coined from. So that's the first thing they'll see, is something that will actually explain what the setting is here and why we're here on this site. They then go through what we locally call the copper tunnel. So they'll see a mine and they'll see a manufacturing facility in model form and an explanation about why copper is so important in terms of the product quality that you get from copper, and for us the fact that one of Michael Faraday's descendants actually designed our still here. So from there they go into the distillery itself. It's a completely accessible tour. You can do it all at ground level on one floor. Taken around, they'll see the mashing process, the fermentation, and then of course the stills. Here we have 2 different types of stills. We have a pair of pot stills and our unique Faraday stills. You'll then come back through this building, go to our rolling mill, where you'll be able to see some of our casks being stored, and then finally go upstairs to the bar, where you'll have a tutored tasting on some of our products.
So after the tasting bar?
So after the tasting bar, then you come down the stairs into the shop, and that's the stairway to heaven. So we have a whole range of whiskies up the length of the stairs, so you can actually see the difference in the colours and the textures of the whiskies as you come.
Yeah, that's great. And then of course you come to the shop.
And then of course you come to the shop, yeah, absolutely. And the key thing for us around the shop is the chimney here. We were really keen to represent the landscape as it would have been when this was a working factory. So it would have been pocked with different types of chimneys, and we rebuilt one here on purpose.
You've done a great job on it.
Thank you.
Well, that was a whistle-stop tour, and as I said, it's a very, very impressive site indeed. And the bar, the film area downstairs with Mr. Faraday and Mr. Vivian,
yes.
Really kind of step out from the screen. It's a remarkable experience for customers coming in, particularly at the shop. Which is very, very strong in terms of your branding. How much visitor traffic, though, do you expect over the course of a year?
So in Swansea this year, we're planning on something around 40,000 visitors to come through. That's people doing tours, masterclasses, some will just visit the shop. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for people to get in and out because we've got great parking facilities on site. But if you combine the 3 distilleries now across Wales, we're looking at 100,000 plus visitors each year across the 3 sites. And that's going to be pretty significant for us in terms of...
That's got to be near the top mark of visitors to sites.
I believe
like
so,
this
yeah. I think
the
if you
UK.
looked at some of the bigger sites in Scotland, like Glenfiddich, they're probably at or above that number, but not many. So I think from our point of view, yeah, it's very valuable, and it just helps us to get the word out about the brand as an independent company, with probably limited marketing budgets compared to some of our bigger friends and competitors.
Now, Simon will talk about what activity there is around the brands, especially for Cannes next week,
Yes.
soon. But understand that you're also just about to release some special editions to celebrate 23 years of Penderyn.
Yeah, so September 23, it's actually the 23rd anniversary of the commencement of distilling, which was the 14th of September 2000. So we've got a couple of things going on. We've got a release of what actually is a 21-year-old whiskey, which is an ex-bourbon cask, a cask strength, relatively low number of bottles on allocation. So for our major customers, and we've had to run a lottery for some of our club members as well because we only a limited number of bottles to go around. So that's now being released this week. And also we've got our brand new icon of Wales, which is actually here, which is a great story about the relationship that Wales has with Patagonia in Argentina and the migration of people from Wales to Argentina. And actually today there's a significant Welsh community there.
It's extraordinary.
Some of whom speak language as the Welsh language as their first language. So that's very exciting. And we've collaborated with a small distillery in Patagonia called La Alazana. And we've been able to, it's the first time we've ever actually created a blended malt whiskey. And it's a combination of obviously our whiskey and theirs. And that's been challenging as well to get that done. But with a beautiful design and presentation that celebrates the voyage that they first made and just the whole story. And that's what our Icons of Wales series is all about. We want stories that we tell that will be relevant to people outside of Wales, not just in Wales.
Yes, narrative's important. And let's take it back to the UK. I mean, we all know the appalling UK government tax position on whiskey. Do you see any foreseeable change occurring in the near future?
No, not really. I mean,
we've seen questions in Parliament.
We've seen, yeah. I mean, and you know, there's been a lot of lobbying and pressure and things. I don't know that there will be any change certainly in the short term. I think it's very difficult given the background of the rest of the economic situation that we're all facing. So yeah, it's very frustrating. And as a business that has a large percentage of its activity in the UK, in our sales in the UK, it's a bit concerning, you know. We'll see how we've actually done very well this year. Financial year ended just the end of last month with the UK business. Probably been a bit quieter in exports, but you know, we'll see how that goes in the next sort of 5 or 6 months, particularly running up to Christmas, which is obviously a very key time for us. So yeah, it's a worry. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
One last question, Stephen. If you had a couple of things to say to the trade. This is your platform.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I think, with Penderyn and with Welsh whiskey, as a category and as a brand, we are increasingly becoming established, not just now in the UK and in some of our export markets, but with Simon's contribution in the travel retail outside of the UK, which has been brilliant, because that was something that was missing from our portfolio before. We want the category and the brand to be taken very seriously and to be seen alongside Scotch, Irish and bourbons and Japanese whiskey, for example, as being credible, but not just credible, but world-class and premium. So most people do seem to see that, especially when they taste the product. That's always the key for us, is getting people to taste the flavour profile, which is a little bit different from, say, a Scotch whiskey. It's a bit lighter, a bit less oily, and very attractive, something you can approach. So I think we've got a lot to say, a lot to contribute, and we're very excited about the future, especially with our 3 distilleries now. We want to own Wales as a brand, of course, and because it's not like Scotland or other countries where there's an awful lot of distilleries. We're a relatively small group anyway. So I think we've got a huge opportunity, both as a brand and as an industry.
But you also want to build your share of the global marketplace in terms of travel retail, and you're currently around 5%.
Yes.
When we talked last time, we were looking at something approaching 10% as a target, which is quite realistic, but selective.
Yes.
In real terms.
Well, there's no doubt that the key priority for the business over the next 3 to 5 years will be exports and travel retail. And I see them obviously going hand in hand. We need the profile that we gain through travel retail and the reputation that we gain through being seen around the world. But there's no doubt, finding really good partners to work with in both of those segments is going to be key to our success. And it's a big challenge, there's no doubt about it. It's very difficult, especially in the export markets, domestic markets, finding really good partners for the size of business we are, someone who's big enough to get us around the countries, but not so big that they can't deal with us as a brand. So that's the big challenge and opportunity, and we're very excited about it.
Well, I'm sure you'll get there, Stephen, and we'll chart your progress in the coming years.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Simon, welcome back to TRUnblocked.com, and here we are again 6 months down the line at Penderyn's fantastic Swansea distillery, and dare I say it, in the Dragon's Den, where you actually hold your masterclasses here. Quite a unique experience. But let's just start by going back to where you are as a business. I think it's fair to say that Penderyn as a brand genuinely punches above its weight. What do you think are its defining characteristics that differentiates it from the crowd?
I think clearly you've mentioned we're in a beautiful place here today. The fact that we can deliver that as a small business demonstrates an energy, an enthusiasm and a capability which many businesses of our scale probably might not have, inspired by the leadership of Stephen and the company we work with. I think the fact that we're Welsh makes us stand out from a crowd. That brings a certain energy, a certain style and a certain passion to the way the business is run. That doesn't make us any better, but it makes us different and brings us an opportunity to bring different things to the party.
So how much has your business actually grown this year in travel retail?
If I look back to where the business was pre-pandemic, which is probably the best measure of that, the growth we've managed to build in makes us 2.5 times bigger than the numbers in 2019, and I think that's tantamount to the energy and the challenges that our customers and enthusiasm that the customers have gone with us. Their enthusiasm to list new products and maybe take a risk.
Moving on, what then are your next strategic targets? You're not everywhere in the world, are you?
I think, as you well know, the travel retail channel has a long lead time. The processes that big retailers have taken sometimes more than a year to come through. The strategy, as I've mentioned before, is not about being scattergun, being everywhere. It's about making sure that our travel retail presence can back up our international expansion in key target locations. So we're looking at building on the success we had in Asia at the TFWA. Those journeys and those conversations take a little bit of time to get through, but we're almost at that point. Expanding into the Americas now, so we've opened up some small but interesting business with DFS on the Canadian border and down in the Caribbean. Small but adding value in premium locations. And then consolidating our position in Europe with some decent retailers.
I just want to go back to Asia because it's actually not delivering quite as much to the business as you might be reading elsewhere. Would you subscribe to that?
Yeah, I think so. I think most people would say that the current conditions in China are contributing to maybe slightly less performance than people had anticipated. It's well noted that Chinese travelling is really only just starting to go again, so locations around the world that are dependent upon Chinese travellers are gearing up for that, but it's not yet happened. Whilst the economy in China is still in growth, it's nowhere near that it was in previous years. So it puts a little bit, not a dampener, but a different perspective on how you move forward in that region. And the rest of the region has yet to really fully open up, I think, having experienced in Singapore. There's still a lot of on-trade outlets are not fully operational. The momentum will recover, but it's going to be, as originally predicted, probably 25, 26 before that period that region gets back to where it was.
Next week it's TFWA in Cannes. What have you got in store for the business?
It's going to be a really exciting week for us. We've got some refreshing news around our Dragon range, which is coming through in a new packaging, really inspiring in terms of upweighting the message around the Dragon, around the notes of the whiskies. We've just relaunched that across international markets and will roll out into the UK in the coming months. For the travel retail community, it's the first time we will have launched a new exclusive 1 litre version of our Penderyn Faraday, and that will hit the exhibition shelves literally a week after it's being produced here in Wales next week. So that's really exciting.
And what about beyond Cannes?
Beyond Cannes, I think, is a period of consolidation. It's a period of challenging our existing relationships with our existing partners to do more, to do better, to deliver on the promises and expectations that we've both made for each other, and also targeting new distribution in some interesting new places around the world that are going to add presence, necessarily not going to add too much scale, but also generating a bigger feel for Penderyn. A lot of people say to me, I've seen your brand in many, many places. How do you get it there? Some I don't know about, but many of those places is through, true grit, if you want to put it, persistence. And I think we'll be persistent in making sure that the world whisky category starts to get the space it deserves, that Penderyn as a pioneer in that business gets to get the space it deserves.
Of course, your portfolio of products extend beyond whisky. How are the other brands performing?
Within travel retail, they're mostly limited to our business with Dufry in the UK, but they've done particularly well. I think the gin category, it's well written, has probably reached a zenith here in the UK. There's a saturation of product around the world, not just here, in markets like Australia and Asia. So gin has performed well. We've had to re-engineer our Merlin creamy liqueur a little bit, but that's now come back and has delivered some good results. The quality is as pure as it's always been. So we're hopeful for that. And then obviously, as a multi-category company, we're looking to grow our rums, grow our gins. It's very competitive.
Of course, Siddiqui is just one of your own products, and there's a lot of untapped potential in that particular market. It's got some way to go. What's your view?
I think it'd be fair to say the rum category is one of those categories that comes around a lot in terms of it's the next cab off the rank. It's certainly vibrant at the moment, and I think we have to just push the barriers down a little bit to say here is a rum that's of great quality, both the white rum and the dark rum. The story is fantastic, and we just have to get people to believe in it. And again, as I've always said, show a bit of enthusiasm for something new and something different that's not necessarily always available on the domestic market shelves.
One last question, Simon. If there were 3 things you wanted to say to the trade right now, what would they be? My
messages are quite consistent, Peter, and I think that in this role, it's always been about take a challenge. Brands that are from different suppliers, not your regular guys, can offer you innovation, can offer you premiumness, can offer you new qualities that consumers are looking for. So the offer in the travel retail world has to be different compared to the domestic market. That's the main drivers behind purchase. So give new brands a go, be bold, be flexible, be agile in your approach, and give brands like Penderyn a real chance.
We've got something downstairs, actually, in the retail shop, where actually people can sort of do it yourself. They can actually tap a couple of your Penderyn whiskey choices, put it into a bottle, label it and so on, and take it away at a not unreasonable price. I mean, is that the sort of thing you're talking about in terms of the potential opportunity?
The activation of that is something I've flagged up to a couple of operators that could be possible. There's many barriers to try and overcome in terms of technology, in terms of access, in terms of rules. But wouldn't it be great if you went through an airport shop and you bottled your own single malt whiskey, and you wrote, I was thinking through this airport, I thought of you, and I thought, what better gift than a bottle of one of the world's leading single malts from me to you.
Lovely thought to end this interview. Thank you for your time.
Thank Peter, and thanks for your support.